Channel Z and Knox Brew Hub present Knox Brew Radio and Podcast, an in-depth look at the craft beer scene in Knoxville and the latest craft beer news from around the country and all over the world. Brought to you by First Century Bank, family-owned local banking since 1894. And by longtime friends of the show, Grayson Subaru. Broadcasting live from the Hub in downtown Knoxville every Monday at 6 p.m. And now, kick back and crack one open with local beer's best friends, Zach, Ace, and Stryker.
Due to some technical difficulties, we are unable to share this week's episode in its entirety. We now return to our regularly scheduled broadcast featuring Gregory Headrick, already in progress.
Travels early as possible.
Yeah, like 11 a.m. I've been invited to one of those things.
Yes, you have.
I've opened this bar for one of those things.
Yes, you have. And he began to kind of needle me a little bit, and he says, "You're posting all the time about the craft breweries and your travels." And he said, "You're the mayor. It's just like you're the mayor of local craft beer." So I kind of credit him to getting that term started. And it just kind of snowballed from there as more breweries opened. I did my best to support them as well. And then again, being surprised 2.5 years ago, which was very memorable in my life. I'll never forget it. With that certificate.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I am very emotional. I don't know if anyone else is getting emotional, but I certainly am. I love you, Greg.
My daughters, which were present, I have 2 daughters, after it was over, they said, "Dad, we've never seen you cry before."
Not even when they were born.
Well, they wouldn't remember that. But there were tears when they were born, but they wouldn't remember that. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay, so that's how you become the beer mayor in the last couple of years. What I asked you was, how do you feel when people call you the Knoxville beer mayor?
I am honored to be associated with Knoxville Craft Beer. I count it as an honor. If you look at my posts, and I promote constantly on social media for all the breweries, you rarely will see me in a photo because it's all about the Knoxville craft beer scene.
Yeah.
My extended family, and that's who I count these folks as my family. I mean, it was a new chapter in my life, and I'm just honored. I am so honored. I have pride as well. When people call me that, I say that as well.
Well, I can speak on behalf of the people that work in the craft beer community, seeing as how I've worked at 2 of the breweries here in Knoxville. But amongst the staff and amongst the people that work in craft beer, you are so beloved, so appreciated, and you bring a joy with you that's just infectious. And the line that you say every time I see you, "Too blessed to be depressed." I love that.
Way too blessed to be depressed. Yes,
Yeah.
it's.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Well, since we are on a drinking show, I guess we should do some drinking. I've got so many more questions to you, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right here in front of everyone, joining us down here live at the Hub, is a 4-ounce taster of a beer that no longer exists and never will ever again. This is from one of our favorites that is no longer with us, Elkmont Exchange.
I'd pour one out, but there's only 4 ounces.
Yes, and we chose this beer right as they were closing because we knew it would age well. This is the Fortitude and Vigilance Farmhouse Ale that they brewed as a fundraiser for New Hope.
Yes.
And so let's take a little sip of this. Cheers, y'all. Enjoy.
Cheers.
It's going to have a little bit of that Belgian funk to it, which is expected with a farmhouse ale, but still very clean and nice, effervescent, kind of very carbonated.
That's gorgeous.
Belgian funk was my nickname in high school.
Belgian funk.
You're Belgian?
Man, that is clean.
That is such a good beer.
It's hard to believe that this beer is almost 8 months old. But I chose this on purpose because I knew that Belgian would age well. I just recently ran into Chris Meadows, who is at Yeehaw now.
Shout out, Chris. We love you too.
Yeah, Chris was super excited to hear that this beer was still tasting
really
good.
It's amazing. I've got a sixtel of it on at home right now as well because, as they had to be closed by the end of the year. So on the 31st of December, I went down there and bought as much as I could.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 sixtels of this stuff standing by. And
Wait, of this specific beer?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to start camping out in your yard. This is amazing.
Not a problem. There's plenty to go around.
After show party at Mama Calls Me Kevin.
Bring it on.
You think we're kidding, too.
1900 South Hills Drive. I dare you to be there. I need it gone, people.
Well, let's take a quick moment and raise our glasses to Elkmont Exchange.
Elkmont Exchange.
Yes.
And the future of that space. Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
I'll drink to that.
All right, Greg. So we touched a little bit on your name and how you got that name, but let's go back even further. Where does your story begin? Where were you born?
I was born many decades ago in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I did not know that.
Yes.
And how did you end up in Knoxville?
At 24, my profession presented me with an opportunity for relocation, and I relocated to this area back in 1983. And I consider Knoxville home.
So birth to 83 was mostly Chattanooga?
Oh, yes.
And then around 80, and then in 83 you moved to Knoxville. And was this Knoxville proper or like sort of East Tennessee kind of region?
It was, my first destination was in Oak Ridge.
Okay.
Yes, and then from Oak Ridge, I met my wonderful bride. We moved to Clinton, Tennessee, and we resided there until 13 months ago, and we finally made the move to Knoxville.
Yay!
Yes.
Hooray.
We're happy to have you. But I want to unpack that a little bit. You said you met your bride. What year was this?
Oh, my God. 85? Yeah, I'm looking for help from the audience over there.
She just numbered 85 to Greg. That was the sweetest thing I've ever seen in my life. And how did you two meet?
Well, it's interesting. I worked in retail management, and the location that I was assigned to, believe it or not, I was relatively young at that time. And the office manager kind of took me under her wing and mothered me some, because at that point in time in my life, I was keeping late hours, let's say that.
Young and wild and free.
And I happened to be back in the office one day, and this long-legged, tall girl came back to the office that caught my eye and began to talk to...
And she introduced you to your bride. No, I'm just kidding.
So after she left, I reached out to the office manager, who I referred to as Ma back then because she mothered me all the time. And I said, "Who was that?" And she said, "That is my youngest daughter, and you stay away from her."
I have a feeling you didn't listen.
No, I after persistence, I asked her how I could possibly ask her daughter out. And she said, "Well, you're going to have to live a lot better life than you're living right now." So I did that because I was that determined, and it paid off.
Yeah, it did. I'll drink to that.
I'll definitely
I'll drink
drink
to
to that. Oh, cheers for people coming into your life and making you better.
Yeah.
They say you're not supposed to date your boss, but they didn't say anything about your boss's daughter. So
Amen.
It's not encouraged, but sometimes it works out.
So that was we kind of covered your literal birth in the beginning of your relationship with your wife. Tell us about your beer birth, if you will.
What got you into beer?
And your relationship with beer. How'd that start?
Okay, this is an interesting story and kind of humorous. Now I look back at it. My dad is a minister.
Oh.
And I heard him throughout my life talk about the evils of alcohol, and how that when he was young, when he was with his buddies and they would drink beer, that beer was so disgusting when they weren't looking, he would pour his out to make it look like that he was enjoying the beer that they were.
To kind of fit in, yeah.
Yes, to fit in. And so when I turned 18, I actually was legal when I drank my first beer. I drove to my favorite deli in Chattanooga, which was owned by, it was a Greek deli. They had great sandwiches. This was back in the day where things weren't as restrictive. So when I walked up to place an order, they asked me what I wanted, and I said, I want a Moosehead. So I had a Moosehead lager, and I said, to go. So
Wait, that was an option?
Yes, it was an option.
Okay. Oh, like it was closed container, though, right?
No. They
Different
opened
time, Zach.
they opened
Different
the
time.
bottle.
Real quick, everyone listening, who here's had a moose knuckle? Is that what he said?
Moosehead.
Moose knuckles so different.
It's not the same thing. Oh, my Lord.
If you want to see more moose knuckle, come on down to Emo Sappy
That's
Hour
right.
where everyone's wearing skinny jeans.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's
Wow.
classic.
You should see Kevin's face if you're not here.
What I'm thinking is, the overwhelming applause we got.
my God.
Zach mentions a moose knuckle, and the crowd goes wild.
Google, kids.
Moose head.
100%. I'm going to get a text from
Do
my
not
dad
Google kids.
asking me what that is.
Don't Google that. That is
God.
no.
Who here has had a moose head beer before?
I have.
Okay, there we go.
Moosehead lager out of Canada in a green bottle. When I ordered it, they put it in a small brown bag. I exited the restaurant. I got into my Ford Pinto,
Oh, no.
and I drove around behind a department store, which was nearby, and hesitantly opened my car door because I thought I would have to spit it out because all I'd heard my whole life is how disgusting beer is.
Yeah.
And took a big swig of that Moosehead lager and tasted it. And yes, Moosehead lager. Tasted it, and I said, damn, this is good.
And you liked it.
And that's where it all started. And once I had the Moosehead lager, which is an import, I went through the normal stages of, early beer drinking life and drank more for quantity than quality. But that didn't last very long before I started wanting to go for taste and not the drunkenness.
Well, yeah, and that was your first beer experience. By the way, this show is great, and we're having a lot of fun. But this particular episode might be even more entertaining if you watch the YouTube channel video.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, boy.
I already have so many plans in my head right now.
I am afraid of what you have planned.
Yes, me
Cam.
too. Me too.
Can't wait.
I'm intrigued.
Oh, the graphics package is going to be, graphic.
And the package.
And the package.
Oh my god. We're off the rails.
Oh, boy.
I'm about to ask Greg another question, but I feel like it's a waste of effort.
Go for it. Please, just go for it.
When do you feel like you became aware of the idea of craft beer as far as something other than what was domestic or readily available in grocery stores and such whatnot?
Once I got past the mass-produced beer drunkenness stage, consuming as much as possible and not losing consciousness, I delved into imports. That was kind of what I went to.
Import was very pre-craft for a lot of people.
Yes.
Right. Well, they had it, let's face it, the other countries kind of had that corner pegged. They were
had
sending
more
their stuff
different
over.
kinds of styles,
right.
too.
For years before we developed our own, craft beer identity here in the United States.
Yes, and then Sam Adams kind of burst on the scene, and Pete's Wicked Ale, which you don't really see anymore. And I tried those. I saw those in, I had a friend in Oak Ridge that at the time he had a homebrew store, and he would get beer that you couldn't find in the supermarket. So I would see those two, and I would buy them and try them. And man, Sam Adams had a love affair with Sam Adams for a while before.
Don't tell your wife.
Yeah, before more craft beer became available.
Yeah. Fun fact: that was my first legal beer.
Was Sam
was
Adams?
was a Sam Adams Boston Lager.
That was a couple weeks ago.
3 or 4.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing, though, just talking about the evolution of beer. A friend of mine worked for Miller Coors, and I visited him in Nashville, and him and 2 other sales reps and I got brunch. We were having breakfast together.
Right.
So I'm having breakfast with a Miller Coors sales rep, a Sam Adams rep, and then a local craft brewery rep. And you would think, basically the Miller Lite rep said his job was easy, the local beer rep said his job was easy, and the Sam Adams rep said his job was almost impossible. Because as we see more and more local breweries, Sam Adams is becoming less attractive to craft beer drinkers because they want local, and Sam Adams isn't local. And the Miller Lite salesperson was like, well, I don't have a hard time because I just go into the honky-tonks and the bars, and they want Miller Lite.
Right.
So it's interesting. Sam Adams still is very strong and still has a great brand and has a great representation of craft beer, but that, we have never carried a Sam Adams product here at Knox Brew Hub. And I think they're a great brewery, but no one's demanded it. No one's asked for it.
Yes, and I haven't had a Sam Adams beer in probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, because you're sought after local.
Absolutely, yeah. Local's my first choice always.
Same.
Yeah.
Although I'm not. That's not to say that I would not totally revisit, the beer that started off my legal drinking consumption.
Moose Knuckle.
It's an anniversary
No,
thing.
it was the Boston Lager. Zach's the one that loves the moose knuckle.
I had just recovered. Literally just recovered.
Blame it on Cam.
Oh, yeah. You gave me a mic on purpose.
Same thing, Cam. Bless.
Okay, so back to Greg. All right, so you got past the let's just drink as much as we can phase and started to really fall in love with beer with Sam Adams, with Pete's Wicked Ale. How did that continue to evolve, your appreciation for local beer?
And an extension of that, if I may, what were some of the beer styles? Like everyone kind of goes through a season of the beer styles that they enjoy drinking, but what were the ones that kind of started it for you, and where have you seen that evolve?
Well, with Sam, one of the things that they do every quarter or every season, they would put out a 12-pack of assorted, like they would do a summer 12-pack. They would do a spring 12-pack. They would do, one of my favorites was during the wintertime when they would do that, and they would put out some of the darker beers. So to this day, I don't know if Sam Adams and their assorted 12-packs kind of tutored me into this. I'm to this day, I'm a very seasonal drinker, so whatever time of year it is the beer that I tend to drink.
Gravitate towards.
Absolutely, and I don't. This time of the year, I very rarely will drink anything dark. It's always something on the lighter scale.
I'm a lot the same.
Yeah, but
I say that, but like last week I went to Balter Beer Works and had I've had it 1,000 times.
Maypop?
No.
Firebelly?
No, porter.
Winter
Bear
Blend.
Blend.
Beer
Blend.
Yes, my all-time favorite beer from them.
And I literally was blown away. I took a picture of it and I sent it to Will, the head brewer, and I said, "This is perfect." And his response was, "What?" He was like,
That's a pretty good picture, Zach.
yeah. I was like, no.
Gee, be a little more full of yourself.
I was like, this beer was perfect.
Yeah.
And he said, "Thank you. It means a lot." I mean, Bear Blend, I'll drink that year round, but I totally get the seasonal.
Perfect brunch beer.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yes.
with the big old waffles and bacon.
Yeah, and Will is one of the most underrated brewers and most humble brewers in Knoxville.
He does a great job.
Yes.
So you feel like you're still a seasonal beer drinker?
Yes. Sure.
Anything
yeah.
you're sipping on right now that you want to tell the world about? Any
I mean,
local
the
favorites?
Hub here has one of my favorite beers for this time of the year. It's the Alliance Lager.
That's what I'm drinking.
And
Yeah.
as I tell everyone, I can never walk past this beer without drinking it. So when I come here, and it's number 2 on the menu board, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
But number one in our hearts.
Yes. An interesting story behind this lager, if I may,
Of course.
You may.
is during the shutdown, I would go and pick up crowlers at different breweries all across town. And I happened by Alliance during one of my journeys to pick up crowlers to take home. And they had just released this lager. So I got the 3-pack because I saved a little bit of money by getting 3 32-ounce crowlers. And I went home, and I haven't had the lager before because I hadn't brewed it before. I popped that thing open, poured it in a glass, looked at how beautiful it was, began to consume it, and I said, holy shit. That is good. And immediately went back the next day and got a 3-pack of the Alliance Lager.
I'll
So
drink
that's
that.
how much I love the lager, yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I'll totally drink to that.
At this point, I'm just cheersing myself, but you know what?
Yeah, I don't have a beer, so I feel like it's bad luck. Cheers.
Yeah.
What about
I'll cheers at you.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, you said that you felt like you related a little bit as a seasonal beer drinker as well.
Yes.
Ace, do you have a similar experience? Or are you kind of all over the place?
I mean, if you could visually see what's in front of me, no, no, not at all. I drink whatever is speaking to me when I look up at the board. And yeah, I mean, typically if I walk into a brewery and I haven't been there, I'll order a pale ale just to judge based upon the style. But otherwise, no. I've never fallen into the seasonal beer drinker habits of dark during the winter, a little bit lighter during the summer. Yeah, I just drink whatever looks good.
I, however, have kind of
Okay.
more as a more general rule now, and I love to break rules.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of
Rebel.
I had a couple of winter porters earlier today, just as a matter of fact.
Oh, and you need to clear out the fridge too.
Well, sometimes a little midsummer cleaning is in order, but no, I as a general rule though, I don't drink a lot of porters, stouts, in summer months, mainly because I enjoy being outside, and when I'm out in the summer heat and I'm being active, I mean as active as I get, let's be honest, but when I am, I don't want to drink something that sits a little heavier on my stomach and maybe that's an individual thing as far as physiology is concerned too. But yeah, lagers and stouts and porters aren't something that I generally consume a lot of during the summertime, but it's certainly not a hard, fast rule. I mean, if I walked in here and you were like, dude, you have got to try this new porter we've got on.
no matter what time of year
it would be
is.
in my glass and in my hand in no time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, my stomach does not judge by color, but it also doesn't have eyes. So
That's one of the things I love about craft beer is that the subjectivity for everyone.
Yeah.
Because not everybody likes the same beer. Not everybody drinks seasonal. That's the thing that I appreciate and love the most about craft beer. and
I didn't
local
think
craft
I
beer.
was seasonal until I moved to Knoxville.
well, we have seasons here.
Yeah,
you-
I was gonna
yeah.
say,
We have
you
seasons.
didn't
Yeah.
even have seasons in California,
I
Cam.
had
Let
summer
alone
for
seasonal
11
beer.
months,
Yeah.
and my winter was 60 degrees. But I drank only exclusively dark beer for the most part. Anything that was dark and rich, like my soul. And then I moved here, and the humidity started just like destroying me. And now I'm on like the biggest lager and saison kick I've ever gone through in my entire
I
life.
love that.
Growth is
and there's-
important.
And there's more lagers and saisons than there's ever been. So
Oh, absolutely. I
It's a
love it.
fun time.
Well, I've got one more question for you, Greg, and I'm really curious to hear your answer as someone who is so in love with Knoxville beer and is so involved like we are. And by the way, we are so honored to have you as part of the Knox Brew Stories team,
Yes, we are.
and it's truly a pleasure. So I just want to say thank you to you. Okay, what is something that you feel like the Knoxville beer community could improve on? And then my last question is, if you had to describe to someone who doesn't live in Knoxville or has never been to Knoxville, what your favorite thing about Knoxville beer is, what would your answer be? So we'll start with the first one.
Okay. As far as what Knoxville beer community can do better, I think would be more education as it relates to the beers that are available in their tap rooms.
Like knowing what is available or knowing more about the beer?
Knowing more about the beer itself.
To give greater explanations to the end consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here.
What are the ingredients that are in the beer? What's the
What
hop
hop
profile?
varietals? Yeah.
Yeah, all that. I would love that because I use Untapped, and a lot of the breweries in town do a great job of putting those descriptions for their beers in there, but some of them do not. And I have the luxury of, when I drink, having an attentive audience because I get there
usually early,
right at opening, and so I can inquire that. But folks that come in on Friday evenings and Friday nights and Saturdays and Sundays when it's busy, they don't necessarily have that option.
Interesting. I like that a lot. And that's a good thing that's going to be helpful to everybody, and especially beer consumers too. So, what would you say is your favorite thing about Knoxville beer?
Oh, that's easy. It's the community. The community is, I'm telling you, one of the things that I tell folks during COVID and the shutdowns, I would buy all these crowlers and take them home and drink them, but it wasn't the same drinking at home.
No.
Versus drinking with my family, One of the things that I enjoy the most about the local craft beer scene in Knoxville is sitting at the bar. Thank God that's available in almost all the breweries now. And conversing with the folks that brew this magnificent liquid for us. And also not forgetting those wonderful individuals that are pouring that beer for me and getting to know them. And then along my journeys, encountering other family members and getting to sit down and take a couple sips with them and see what's going on in their life. So yes, community by far is the thing I love the most about the Knoxville craft beer scene.
Well, I'll drink to that.
Yeah,
I will drink to that as well.
Here, here.
Cheers.
Cheersies.
I thought you were going to say First Century Bank.
Well, they may be number 2.
Ace?
No, in fact, that was First Century Bank calling just then to say what a great job you're doing. So,
Thank you, First Century Bank.
Yes, exactly. Always.
And
Thank you, First Century Bank.
And Dan, if you listen to this and wonder why we aren't giving you love right now, it's because you're not here.
Yeah, come on, down.
Damn it, Dan.
Down, Dan. That's correct.
Kevin?
I'm a damn it, Dan man.
Dan Seltzer's damn it, Dan.
Maybe it should be that Dan Seltzer report.
Shots fired.
Yeah, that'll get him down here in a hurry.
I do actually. If you were asking if I had a question for Greg, I actually do. So, Greg, you have done such an amazing job of interviewing these breweries. Is there a brewery or someone in the beer industry in particular that you would love to be able to interview? And I'm not just talking Knoxville. I'm not even just talking Tennessee. I'm talking about general.
Love this question.
Is there anyone in the beer industry that you want to be able to interview? And I'm just going to interject Sam Callione from Dogfish Head, if you're out there. I would love to interview.
Wow.
Wow.
I would have to go back to Mr. Is it Cook? Or Coke?
Yeah, Jim Cook.
With Jim from Sam Adams. Yes, he's kind of a hero of mine. I still have a standee that I was gifted of the Sam Adams holding the stein, which I used, by the way, in a storage room to scare the crap out of people. When I would turn the light on, they would see them. Yes, I would love to pick his brain about craft beer and his journey and thought process.
These answers are so basic, and mine's about to be this right down the middle. Mine would be Ken Grossman from Sierra Nevada.
Who?
Ken Grossman, the
Okay.
creator of Sierra Nevada Brewing Company.
Oh, awesome.
So, which is interesting. We just basically mentioned the three most well-paid individuals in the
Right.
brewing community.
Well, they started it. You know?
Jim Cook and Ken Grossman, to my knowledge, are the only two craft beer billionaires, which is fascinating.
What about
And
Sam?
might be right behind him after that merger with Boston Beer Company.
Yeah.
What would your answer be?
I want to interview Bud Weiser. I hear that guy
smartass.
was an interviewer. That interview would be. I mean, he was an innovator in macro beer and
he's a frog.
hell,
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
Why?
No, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'd kind of have to ride on the mayor's coattails, which is not infrequent at all, because same reason. I mean, he kind of. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone on the panel, Boston Beer Company really kind of was the first, craft beer brewery to lead the charge and to show, hey, guys, by changing the style and by being a little more creative and a little more inventive, we can still be extremely successful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And there is a market for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the interview that I also would like to have.
Yeah, in 1982, there were less than 40 breweries in the United States. Two of them were Sierra Nevada and Sam Adams.
Oh,
Wow.
It's hard to
Wow,
believe.
I
Now we're
didn't know
over 8,000,
yeah.
almost 9,000 breweries. Yeah, isn't
It's
that
over
crazy?
9,000.
All right, Cam, if you could interview one person in the beer world, who would it be?
It would be Todd Tisdale of Pocock Brewing Company back home.
You are such.
You're such a fanboy.
Yeah.
He's
Aren't you friends with him?
no, I mean yes, I am friends with him, but at the same time, I've never sat down and been like, "Yo, Todd, what's the whole thing?" And typically, I walk up,
Right.
I go, "Hey, Todd, can I have a beer?" And he goes, "Yeah," and then I go to trivia.
And that's the interview, folks.
yeah, and then I
Good night
go,
and have a
get a-
pleasant
Good.
tomorrow.
Can I get a moose knuckle ale?
yes, and Todd would probably be like, "Yeah, man."
If that doesn't become a T-shirt, I'm going to be so mad.
yeah,
So
Coming
mad.
next spring, Zach's Pocock Moose Knuckle.
It's
Yeah.
a Goza. It's a little salty. You know what?
Available in 2-packs.
ooh,
It's a salty Goza available in a 2-pack near you.
Two
I love it.
two per package.
one of the cans a little bit bigger than the other.
Every once in a while, you can find a 3-pack. They call that a sleeve.
Okay, we're done.
Oh, my God. This is memorable.
Man,
And forgettable all at the same time.
I sure hope so.
Oh Lord!
I mostly said Todd because I don't know any other brewers.
I respect your honesty.
When you listen to the podcast days later, now you know what you're missing out on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's pretty great. Pretty
Yeah, because
great.
this podcast is going to be 30 seconds long.
Just laughter, just so much cackling going on.
All right, Greg, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We've got to take another break and do This Week on Tap here in just a minute. But thank you for being on the show, and thank you for your dedication to Knoxville beer. And
Thank you for delivering joy as always.
Yeah, and for being
It's
you.
an honor and a pleasure.
Where is the best place for people to follow your beer happenings on social media?
I have Knox Beer Mayor, which is on Instagram, and also Knox Beer Mayor on Facebook, which is relatively new, but I encourage the Instagram account where I promote everything Knoxville local craft beer.
And then, other than 1907 Brewing Company coming up for the next Mayor's Report on Thursday, what other Mayor's Reports should we be looking out for coming down the pipeline?
Grayson Subaru, Dan Moyers,
Yeah, Dan.
the Tennessee Valley Homebrewers, TriHop, and the Garden Clinton, which is a pop-up tap room which promotes local craft beer in Clinton, Tennessee on Market Street, down there among all the antique shops.
Well, I look forward to hearing all of them. I thoroughly enjoyed your podcast with Jordan at Clinch River. That was a really special episode.
Oh, Jordan's a great friend of mine.
Here, here.
I learned some things in that interview, and I challenged her before. I said, I want this to be the longest podcast I've ever done, and we kicked the crap out of that.
There you go.
I think I mowed the lawn twice listening to that podcast.
Yes. And I want to thank you, Zach, for providing me the opportunity to talk about my passion, which is local craft beer, and I can't convey enough how much I appreciate you for that.
That's very sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Let's raise a glass and toast to the one, the only Mr. Gregory Headrick, the Knoxville Beer Mayor.
Cheers.
Also, real quick, before we split to our next song, I want to give a big shout out to our patron, Ryan Buds of Trivia with Buds.
Thank you,
If you
Ryan.
want to become a patron, be sure to go to patreon.com/KnoxBrewStories. We've got a bunch of really cool stuff there if you want to just check that out. Go ahead and do that.
Working on some exclusive content for that,
Yes.
which will include an interview where Johnny Miller wants to interview me.
Oh, cool.
We want to do an interview with my parents about the history of Uncle Bud's catfish
Beautiful.
chicken and such. And
Hell, I'll throw in
And
a
raising
seltzer.
you.
and then by request of Gregory Headrick, Matt Malone and I are going to do a podcast talking about the Tennessee Beer Run, which may only be available on our Patreon account.
Yeah. check
Speaking
that
of
out.
Johnny Miller, he will be accompanying me tomorrow on one of my famous day drinking tours, which
Nice.
Kevin has been on,
I have.
and which Candace has been
I
on,
have
Yeah.
almost recovered
but Zach
from it.
has not been on
Yeah,
yet.
Greg, where's the invite?
10 out of 10, highly recommended.
True.
Well, I'll ask you after the show where y'all are going, but I can't. That's going to be awesome.
And Barry, the bluesman, will be with us as well.
Oh, they law, they
Maybe
law.
I think we need to send Greg with a task cam tomorrow. So I'm thinking.
If only somebody owned a bus.
We're working on it, okay?
We're
Get off
working
my
on
back.
it. Yeah. All right, y'all. We are going to take one more very short break. When we come back, we're going to do This Week on Tap, a list of events happening this week you don't want to miss out on. And next week on Tap, we're going to tell you who we'll have on the show next week. Stryker, what are we listening to?
You know what? I recently found out that Ace enjoys the band Revolution, a great little reggae band that I love so much. And so I thought I'd play a selection from their latest album, In the Moment, that was just released about a month ago. This one is called Simply Captivated.